Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. We're back for part 2 of potting up my Brazilian rain tree. Even though this is part 2 of the series, this is the first time that you've actually seen the tree that I'll be working on. I took care of Connor's bonsai trees all last summer while he was away in Korea, and as a gift he gave me this Brazilian rain tree. So I'm really happy to get one. I've always wanted one. The Brazilian rain tree is a new species for me. I've never had one before. So the first thing I did was I looked up the species on the internet, and I did as much research as I could, learning all about the tree and its requirements for growing. The second step to this process was to get a styling idea for the tree. I looked at photos of the tree in its natural environment, and I looked at the shapes and styles of all the different trees I could see on the internet. Two natural styles stuck out in my mind. One was a giant umbrella-shaped canopy that came almost right down to the ground. So a very low canopy on the tree. So from the side view you could see very little of the trunk. It was just all branches and foliage coming almost to the ground. The other style still had the umbrella canopy, but the canopy was higher in the air so you could see more of the trunk of the tree. The style that shows the trunk of the tree and has the canopy up top is more of a typical tree form. So I thought, to be a little different, I thought I would do that style where the branches come right down almost to the ground and the trunk is kind of hidden underneath the umbrella-shaped canopy. So if you want to see the trunk and the branches, you kind of have to get down and look in between the branches and kind of up at the structure of the tree. I think that would make a more interesting bonsai, something different. It just won't look like, every other tropical tree with an umbrella-shaped canopy on it. My Brazilian rain tree is fairly small at the present time. It could be any size tree and it would look good. The leaves are really small on them. So, you could grow it as a small bonsai, a medium-sized bonsai, or a large bonsai, and the leaves would look perfect at any of these sizes. I was looking up to find out why they call the Brazilian rain tree a Brazilian rain tree. Well, first of all, it does grow in Brazil. Its natural environment is warm and humid. And the second reason is that when it rains, it's always cloudy outside, and the leaves fold up, so the rain falls right through the tree and wets the root base underneath. So if you stand underneath one of these trees in the rain, it won't protect you, you'll get wet. So that's one of the reasons they call it a rain tree. The second reason is that at the base of each leaf, on a hot day, they excrete a little bit of fluid, probably a watery sap, and it kind of rains down and cools the tree. So if you stand underneath one of these trees on a hot day, you'll get kind of a shower, like a rain shower. It'll just be very light and misty, but they say don't park your car underneath one of these trees because it'll get covered with a light layer of sticky sap. So those are the reasons that they call the Brazilian rain tree the Brazilian rain tree. This tree is just in a flimsy plastic nursery pot that has a whole bunch of holes poked in it. So one of my goals today is to get it into a better pot. I'll probably put it in a bonsai pot. I don't think the root mass is, all that big, so should fit into a bonsai pot, no problem. At least, use one as a training pot anyway. The other goal for today is to get the structure underway. So I'll rotate it around so you can kind of see what I'm starting with. The trunk comes up. It has a very low upright branch coming off to the right-hand side here. Sort of a central branch coming up the middle, and then one off to the left-hand side. So they're all kind of flat from this view, from the side view, or from the front view. They're very flat. So yeah, we'll have to decide what to do with the tree. I'm going to start by digging in around the roots here, just to find kind of where the root base starts on the tree. Sometimes if these are cuttings, they're stuck quite deeply in the soil, so there might be more trunk than you think on this tree. And that looks like this might be the case. The trunk seems to be going down quite deeply into the soil here. I've got a container here, and I'll try and get all this excess soil into the container. so I can find out where the root base of this tree actually is. It's definitely not high up here. There's roots growing up here, but that's not where they originate from. These trees are related to the acacia trees. They have very sharp thorns all over them. So there's kind of the trunk goes down, and these are definitely roots down here. See down here? They're just very vertical. At least these ones are. Yeah, I'll have to get the tree out of the pot to get those all fixed. I will mist the roots now, and I'll start working on the top of the tree. Alright, I'll get those roots misted here. Kind of wash it away from the roots here too. That looks good. So the trunk isn't that much longer. I scraped away the soil, and it looks like it's more vertical roots than the trunk extending down further into the soil. So I do have a very short trunk before branching starts. So I've got to decide, do I want to keep that, or do I want a longer trunk and then the branches start up higher? I went back and looked at my reference photos of the Brazilian rain trees and, you know, the full-size trees. And even on the ones with the low spreading canopies, I think this lowest branch is just too low. This one is okay, you know, to have a short little trunk. I kind of have to imagine this tree, you know, getting thicker and larger. So I think definitely this trunk here, or this branch, is too low. I think I'd have to get rid of it. I've also read that, you know, when you cut branches, you should leave a stub for dieback, and then when the branch dies back, then prune it off flush. So we'll do that approach. That's what I read on the internet, and the internet's always right. Not always, but yeah, I hate to take this branch off, but I just think it's too low. Like, I'm gonna have a trunk that high, and I would rather it this high before the branches start. I can imagine that trunk being twice as thick, and this, yeah, it'd just be too low, I think. I'll think about it a little more before I prune it off, but yeah, I'll show you those reference pictures too, to just see, you know, that some of the full-size trees do have a very short trunk before the branching starts. But I think this is too short. I've thought about it again, and I have to take it off. It's just too low. Just wouldn't look right as this tree gets thicker. So here I go. I'm going to leave a stub, like they say, to about here. Just like that. You can grow these Brazilian rain trees from cuttings, so I'll use that branch I pruned off as a cutting. I'll just remove these lower leaves, like that, and stick it in some bonsai soil and keep it well watered in a nice bright situation, so near the window, and hopefully it'll grow into another tree. After pruning that lowest branch off, the next step is to get that broom style structure, so all my branches going upright and flowing out from the center of the tree, and to gradually create that arching branch structure to form kind of an umbrella canopy. So I'll remove any branches that are going in towards the center of the tree. There's a crossing one coming from this trunk going across the top of the tree. That'll have to be pruned back, so I'll start with that one. Here's that branch. It comes upright, and then it goes right across the center of the tree and right over to this side. So that has definitely got to be pruned back. And there is a branch here that's facing outwards from the center of the tree, so I will take it off just above that, again leaving a stub for dieback to here, like that. And again, I'll try and grow this as a cutting. We'll see what happens. I'm looking at the tree now, and there's a few branches that have grown quite long. They're kind of really long and starting to droop. So they will need to be pruned back in size. I want to grow out the canopy evenly. I don't want one or two vigorous shoots to take off and thicken up and the rest will get weak and die off. So I want to grow it out as equally as possible. So I'll kind of pick a diameter for the canopy, which is maybe about here, where most of the branches are in that kind of semicircle, and prune it back. So I'll take this branch off right to here, like that. There's one here that's growing long. I'll take that back to here. Actually, a little further, to there. And there's another long one out the back here. I'll take it off to here. That kind of gets my canopy. It's sort of rounded from the looking down at the top view, so there's no branches, wild branches sticking way out. You can see how long some of the thorns are on this tree. Really wicked. So I'm looking for branches now. Crisscross branches, branches that aren't growing in a good direction. I think most of the structure is well sorted out now. This branch here, it kind of is growing in towards the tree. So there's a better branch to prune back to here, so I'll do that. Off it goes. Like that, so it can grow that branch out this direction. There's a bit of a dead branch here I'll take off. My next step will be to find a pot for the tree. It doesn't have to be that big. I mean, it's in a fairly small pot now, so yeah, maybe even one of the ones I bought yesterday would work for this tree. So I'll go through my pots and try and find a match. I did find a pot that's fairly large, but it would do as a training pot for this tree. It's a turquoise color, which doesn't match anything on the tree. It's totally not suitable, but it's sitting there empty. It's full of soil, so I can just dump the soil out, put the tree in and plant it. And I think that'll do for a training pot for the next couple of years anyway. I've got the pot all cleaned up, ready for planting. It's got its drainage screens in place. I've just got to fill it with soil, and then we'll start the root work. All right, I'll put a layer of soil in the bottom of the pot. I think that'll do. Here's a look at how high I filled the pot. That's just a guess. I'll put the tree in now. You know, I'll bare root it, comb out the roots, put the tree in the middle, and then I can adjust the height of the tree and then fill in the soil around the roots. I'll get the tree out of the pot now. The only trouble, these holes in the side of the pot here, they're great for aeration and, you know, getting rid of excess water. But the roots kind of grow into these holes and it grips the pot, and you can't pull the tree out of the pot. So you have to go in with the, you know, the knife and just loosen all the roots around the edge of the pot before you can pull it out. So I'll bring in my tool here. We'll just loosen up all those roots at the edges. Yeah, they really grip into those little holes. I find that if you're using a mesh pot or anything, you kind of gotta loosen up the roots near the edge of the pot, and then it comes out fine. Let's try that. Better. It still doesn't want to come out real easily. It's stubborn. There it goes. This soil that Connor had it in is really good stuff. It must be his own mix. It's got pine bark and turfus and lava rock, bit of organic. It's not too bad a soil. It's nice and loose and crumbly, which is the important thing. Okay, let's start combing the roots out now in a radial pattern. Starting from the center of the tree and raking outwards, trying not to damage the roots. So I'm combing the roots out, gradually working the soil out, misting as I go to keep the roots nice and moist. Don't want them drying out. I'll try and find out from Connor where this tree came from. If it was a cutting or from a seed, or how it started off its life. It's always nice to know a bit of the history behind the tree. So it looks like there's a root here that comes down and then it's cut off, and there's a whole bunch of new roots growing around it. So I would say that it was probably started from a cutting or a seed, and it has been repotted at least once in its life, and probably by Connor. Okay, so here's where we're at. We've got one big thick root coming down and then dividing down at this level. We have another thick root coming off to the side. So there's a little root coming off the side here. There's a few more down here, but basically, you know, we've got two thick major roots. So here's my choices for these roots. I could reduce this long one to the same level as this root to the side, and then more roots would grow in and it'd eventually get a radial root base. I could prune this side root off, grow this as an extension of the trunk, and give me a longer trunk, and then develop my root base down lower. I think, you know, if I kind of average it out, there's a nice root coming off here, right here. So if I were to cut this long root off to here, I would keep most of my roots, and I would reduce the root mass, and I'd, you know, start to develop a radial root system. So I think I'll do that. I'm going to come in and cut right here, just below this horizontal root. So right to here. So here I go. Just like that. Take those roots away. There's another one coming down here that I got to prune away. So I will get rid of that also, like that. And that gives me a fairly flat, the start of a radial root system. There's some here I could prune that are sticking up a little high. This one right here, get rid of that. Like that. Crossing root here, we'll get rid of that. Some more sticking up here, we'll get rid of those. Cut this one back. Like that. And I think that's not bad. The danger is that root is quite thick, and it has a lot of root mass around it, so that's going to take off and thicken up more than any of these small ones around this side. So I may want to cut those back even further just to reduce the vigor on this side, and I think I will. So I'll definitely give them a profile prune here. And if there's some I can get some vigor out of the root system on this side, I'll do it. Maybe this top one here. Get rid of that, like that. That's better. That's not too bad, actually. I think that's going to be it. So we'll give that a spray. Just mist it. Keep it nice and moist. And we'll get it in the new pot. Now, I haven't picked a front for the tree. I think, you know, you'd want your front where this root's kind of flaring off to the one side, and I have this root here. So either that plane or this plane. You don't want these two branches coming up, you don't want them flat onto the viewer. You want some interest, and this is the thicker one, so you want that kind of coming forward if you can. So that kind of leaves this side as the front, even though it has that, you know, branch I pruned off there, which isn't the most attractive thing in the world, but yeah, I think that'll be the front. There's a branch here that I pruned off. I'll get the tree in the pot now. So this was kind of the front, for now anyway. And I want the height to be somewhere about there. So just a little more soil in the pot. I am reusing some of Connor's soil. I mixed it with my soil just because it was good soil and I don't want to waste it. So I've got a bit of that in there now, and I'm just going to kind of raise the tree up a bit. Try and find that proper height in the pot where the trunk is just slightly below the lip of the pot. That's not too bad there. I could just use a little more. I'll just raise the tree up a little bit more. To there. Let's see how that's looking. That's pretty good. I like that. I think I've got a fairly good front to the tree. Now, I don't know about the position in the pot. I mean, this is just a training pot, but I'll try and make it look as nice as possible. At the present time, most of the mass of the tree is over to this left side here. So I should bring the trunk over towards the right just to kind of counterbalance that. So I'll do that. Just shift it over here to the right a bit. See how that looks? I think that looks fairly good from the front. I'm just going to twist it around a bit here. And I think that will do. I'll fill it in with soil now. Someday, far in the future, I'll have to go back to Chris Hendry's and find a really nice pot for this tree as it develops into a, you know, really nice umbrella style Brazilian rain tree. So I think the height of the soil looks pretty good now. You want it just slightly below the lip of the pot. I will work it into the roots. And I think it's ready to be watered. So here I go with the water. I'll just mist it at first. Get that surface of the soil wet, like that. Spray the leaves. We'll keep those nice and humid till the tree recovers from its repotting. And then I'll get out the watering can and I'll give it a thorough watering. So here I go with the watering can. Give it a good soaking. It's best to keep the soil moist at all times with a Brazilian rain tree. They don't like to dry out. There we go. That should do it. The Brazilian rain tree is on its way to becoming a bonsai someday. Right now it's in the early stages, but we've taken some steps to develop it for the future. I'll spin the tree around now so you can see it from all angles. It's the side, the back, the other side, and back somewhere to the front. These trees with the fold-up leaves are very smart trees. If it's too sunny and dry out, the leaves will fold up to conserve moisture. At nighttime they fold up, so the tree looks less appealing to an animal that would eat the leaves. As I said, when it rains, they fold up so the rain can go through the canopy and get to the roots underneath the tree. So that's very smart. Yeah, so, and it's really interesting watching them. They go from this lush, beautiful looking tree, and when they fold up towards nighttime, it really changes the look of the tree. You start to see the structure more. So I'm really fascinated with all these species of trees that have leaves that fold up. I have a lot in the plant room now, and they just never cease to amaze me. I was talking to Connor, and he said this tree came from Tropical Expressions in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. So yeah, it was most likely started from a cutting, I would guess, and Connor's root pruned it once and got it into good bonsai soil. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it develops in the future. Remember how just yesterday it was sunny, warm, and raining. It's changed. I'll show you the weather outside right now. Well, here we are outside. It's definitely not warm and raining today. Some beautiful snow in the air. The sun's trying to shine. Looks rather nice out here. See, that'll teach you to bud out early. Well, we showed those larch trees, didn't we? So this cold should, you know, keep them dormant, so they'll wait till the real spring comes along, and then they can leaf out after the, you know, major frosts and cold weather goes. It's time now to head back inside and we'll check out today's update. Today's update will be my small jade forest that I need to repot. I was buying pots yesterday at Chris Hendry's, the bonsai guy's place, and today I was at Value Village and I found 3 bonsai pots in there. $1.99, $2.99 and $1.99. So I've been buying lots of pots lately. Here's a view of the jade forest. They were quite tall and I severely cut them back to just stumps. And now they're starting to grow new leaves in. So you can see the new leaves. There's a couple on this trunk. There's 1, 2 on this one. This one, that one doesn't show any leaves yet, but they'll come. It's nice and green up top still. The one behind it has a little leaf coming here and one here. This one over here has 2 leaves coming out on it. The top part here is dead. I can carefully remove that. So it dies back to the next ring, which is exactly how I wanted. I knew the leaves come out from the rings, so I pruned just halfway through the ring above where I wanted the leaves to come out, and it worked. That part just dried up. I just pulled it off. So. And this tree over here, it has new leaves here, 1 coming here, and 1 on each of those. So most of them are dividing from the 1 trunk into 2, which is really good. I'm happy to see them recover well. So I did buy a new pot to put this forest in. The pot I chose for it is a really dark, I think it's like a gray colored clay. I don't see any brown in it at all. It's almost, it's not black, but very dark. And I think it'll suit the jades nicely. They have kind of that grayish color in the trunk, so I think it's really going to suit them well. And it'll be a nice dark muted color, so it won't take away from the trees at all. So I'm not going to repot them yet. I'm going to wait until they regain all kinds of new vigor and are growing well and the weather gets better. So probably late spring, I'm guessing, maybe even midsummer, I'll be repotting them into this pot. We'll arrange them nicely, and by that time they should be nice and green on top. And hopefully we'll get a really nice looking jade forest. I've also been working on an animation project this week. There's some glamour shots of a 3D model of a car that I've been working on for like the last 4 or 5 years. So I wanted some glamour shots of it rotating, so I'll show you a glimpse of that. It's time now for viewers' picks. Today's viewer picks are sent in by Kaushik. He says, "Hello Nigel, how are you? Today I went to the jungle near my home. It's the rainy season here and the forest is green and peaceful. I went to collect bark of a tree named Arjuna terminalia. In India, it is often called the Arjuna tree. It has many medicinal uses. We often drink the water in which the bark is dipped. I've taken some pictures of this tree, and I have a few in my bonsai collection. This tree often grows near riverbanks, and it loves water. I hope you like the footage. Have a nice day. So thanks, Kashik. It's getting close to the end of another good day. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.